everybody. Welcome to the TraderMerlin Show. It is your weekend edition. I hope you guys noticed my slight adjustment to our thumbnail title card that I started the week off with. I was really hoping to have a nice glass of whiskey, but I decided to have myself just a little bit of cough syrup. Yeah, got the cough. Just can't seem to shake that cough. Anyway, it's a trading week wrap-up. It's the 12th of November, and you guys, I'm surprised you didn't shame me yesterday. You should have shamed me yesterday. In my haze and just excitement to get back to doing the show, I did not give any shout out to Veterans Day. I mean, my goodness. You think of all the hundreds of thousands of Americans and, I'll just say anybody who's fighting for their liberties and freedoms, always deserve a shout out to everybody. And I know that a lot of you that are watching this program right now have served in the military in some way or another. So thank you for all that you do and giving me a lot of the freedoms that I have to say what I can say here on these programs because of your service. So, sorry, it's that the COVID fog has got me forgetting things, and how important was that one for yesterday. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of a week wrap up here. I have some interesting questions, a topic that actually I haven't addressed here on this program, which I think might be worthy of discussion, things like the Metaverse and maybe some regulatory issues. So let's kick things off. Of course, if you guys have questions for me today, feel free to type those on in the chat. I will do my best to get to all those live. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button. And if you're watching this on YouTube and it's old and archived, comment down below, or you can email me anytime at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. You can see that on the screen there. All right, let's go to our question for today. And I'm going to start this off just with a viewer question, and then I'll dive into an overall market analysis. This is from Howard. Howard said, how did the market rally today? Inflation is soaring. Stocks are overbought. Well, remember, a lot of this is perception. A lot of this is buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. And with the inflation piece, we've been talking about that for quite a bit here on this program. And I think a lot of you as well have, it's no surprise that inflation is rising, that's going to be a potential problem. But is it already baked in? Have we already got to the point where people looking at it going, yeah, we know inflation is going to be higher, and shrugging it off? So, I think that we saw over the past couple days a little bit of negativity. Now, granted, most of the major indexes for the week were negative. That's okay. But I think part of that was priced in a little bit. Now, just because inflation is at 6.2%, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden these markets are going to come crashing down and have a 50% drop tomorrow. It means that now the market is more aware of it and waiting to see what the steps that the Fed or other entities will take to help curb that inflationary pressure. So part of the reason I think today you saw this nice pop up, and let me bring up some price charts here just so we can look at the price charts, because I always like looking at price charts. Here's your NASDAQ in particular today. You see this nice pop up. You had a couple big red candles this week, and then all of a sudden today we saw a nice move to the tune of about 1.12% to the north. If I look at this on a 15-minute basis, notice that we were selling off going into the open, right? Actually, we opened and then sold off as the market opened up. And then there was an announcement that happened 30 minutes into the trading session. And this is one of the things that when I used to teach the stock class, I always look for 15 to 30 minutes into the trading session for reversals. And it has a lot to do with order filling and how those institutions process orders. But you notice right here, this is 645 where my cursor is. That's the dead low. And all of a sudden, at 7 o'clock, we see this really big move to the upside. Now you're like, well, wait a minute. Why did this skyrocket so much? Well, this is why I try to every day go through your economic calendar and cover a lot of the, a lot of the economic data. So if we look at the economic calendar for today, you notice that at 7 a.m., this JOLTS job openings happen right at 7. Now, the JOLTS job openings is not like this epic employment report, right? But it is interesting because right now you're hearing so much about, well, there's tons of jobs, or is there not a ton of jobs, right? I'm hearing that there's a bunch, but what do the facts say? What's the data showing us? And you'll notice here, let me see if I can grab my pen. The expectation is we're going to go from 10.63 million job openings and drop to the tune of about 600,000 to 10.02 million, right? That's a sign that, things might be slowing down a little bit. Personally, I think that 10 million job openings is pretty darn good. But we came out much higher than expectation at 10.44. So I think that this is encouraging that we're not seeing a super sharp decline. Yes, it dropped a little bit with regards to job openings, but this means there's work out there for people. This means that businesses are still growing and expanding and looking to take on new employees to help their businesses grow. That, from an economic growth perspective, that's very positive. And I think that part of what we saw with today's nice market rally was specifically that, was saying, look, people feeling like the job market looks good, you've got more openings than expected, therefore markets take off a little bit. And here you see the NASDAQ. You can take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average as well. Right at the, actually a little bit later in a response to that announcement than the NASDAQ, you have the Russell 2000, did not respond anywhere near as strong. And then let's look at the S&P, which did respond aggressively right at 7 o'clock. So, that's got to be my answer to that question, Howard, is I think a lot of it has to do with the economic data that was presented today. And, going forward, we'll see what the economic data looks like that might fuel this market even higher. Next week, I do think, I think it's on Tuesday. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll let you guys know on Monday. Is the retail sales numbers are coming out. Now, of course, again, we have so much talk about supply chain disruptions and all these different issues. So, I'm curious to see how that retail sales numbers work, and are they going to be better, worse than expected going into the holiday season, especially going into our November shopping frenzy, which everyone gets into. Will be interesting to see how those retail sales numbers are impacted. So to me, economic data is a big driver right now of our markets, and that's why I try to show it to you on a regular basis, saying, hey, here's what's coming out. Thanks, Jeff. I do feel a lot better, except for this damn cough. Pepe says, someone told me in April that the Fed is almost 100 trillion more, has almost 100 trillion more to manipulate. Well, I mean, if you think about what the Fed has, an ability to manipulate the markets, is it limited to 100 trillion? Could it be significantly higher than that? I believe it's infinite. I don't believe there is a limit on it. And I think that if I'm let's take a step back and put yourself in the role of an elected official, right? Basically, if you're an elected official, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, who cares? This is apolitical. But if you're an elected official who's gone through the process and been elected to whatever office you're in, you're hoping that no matter what, the markets do well. You don't want to have it on your clock or your administration that these markets perform poorly under your guidance, right? Because, of course, they'll point the finger and that guy sucked, or that guy sucked, or this woman sucked, she was terrible, da da da. That's just the nature of the beast. So politicians, I think, are a little bit short-sighted, and they will say, hey, Fed, do whatever you need to do to make sure that these markets perform well, because I owe it to my constituents to have great job growth, and I want to see all kinds of money come pouring in. Let's do some stimulus checks and just flood the market with money, because I don't care what happens 10 years down the road. I need it to look good for this next election when I get go back out there and try to win my second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever position it is I'm trying to get. Yeah, Big Eb, I believe technically there is no limit to the Fed, and if I'm that elected official, I'm not putting a cap on 100 trillion. You do what you need to do, Mr. Powell. You and your team, hey, stoke this market, because first off, if I'm an elected official, I also will know, most likely ahead of time, before the retail investor, what is going to be pumped into the economy. So, of course, a lot of you have been pointing the finger at Mrs. Pelosi, but let's be honest, this is not just about Miss Pelosi and the Democrats. Republicans are taking full advantage of knowing that the Fed will continue to push these markets higher, and it's across the board. It's not any one party. Again, it's just knowing that you've got this entity with an unlimited bank account that could push the markets higher and higher and higher. So, to me, I don't believe that you said that the Fed said that they have 100 trillion, someone close to you. Well, I think that they have an unlimited amount. Remember, there is no stockpile of cash that the Fed is reaching into and taking. It's a ledger, and basically they are creating, well, let's see how much we need. We need to buy $100 trillion worth of mortgage-backed securities. Okay, they just put it as a line item on the ledger, right? This is why I'm such a huge fan of digital assets and cryptocurrency in particular, because you can't go to Bitcoin and say, I'm going to create another $100 trillion worth of Bitcoin. It can't happen. So the inability to manipulate the monetary supply is critical, and I think it will. Naum, absolutely, you're right, Naum. It's not just elected officials. We are all taking advantage, unless you're like me and had a big short position last year and got burned on that one. But for the most part, yeah, I am taking full advantage of it. So there you go, Pepe. I I think it's unlimited. They'll continue to spend and spend and spend and spend. And as Margaret says, no more gold standard. That's right. We have gotten to the point where, this money we have on our wallets that we look at every single day, I got a $50 bill right here. This is backed by nothing. The full faith of the government. And, given how much money has been printed, you can almost watch the value of this degrade in my hands. It's going down that quickly. Now, that said, if we look at this week, I mentioned on the Monday Morning Must Knows that came out last Monday, actually 2 weeks ago, we talked about the strength in the US dollar and why that was so important. So let's take a peek back at that US dollar because, let me bring that chart up. Here is the chart for you, and here's the dollar index, the Dixie. So a little bit of, there you go, a little bit of hesitation today. Some might call this a spinning top. For those who don't know, a spinning top is a small real body, which you can see this red candle right here, and a little bit of a topping and bottoming tail. That's called a spinning top formation, and it just reflects indecision. After a monster two-day rally like we've seen in the dollar index, it makes sense for it to have a little bit of hesitation. It would not surprise me to see this drift back down a little bit and do a retest. So where did we break out from on the dollar? All right, I'll put some lines on here. There's your kind of breakout point. Let me take off this line. There's your breakout point on that dollar, right around 94.50, right? If it does retest, my expectation is it'll come back down. It'll retest that line at 94.56, somewhere in that ballpark, and then continue on up. I think that the trend is clear for the U.S. dollar moving up. And I think some of you are going, well, why would the dollar be getting stronger? Because they printed so much money. Shouldn't that increase in money supply crush the dollar and make it look weaker? That's what the goal has been. But remember, we're in an inflationary environment right now. So what are the actions the Fed needs to do to help stop inflation or the spike in inflation? Number one, they raise rates. All right, so if you raise rates, the carry trade, so anybody who's in the Forex world, think big institutions, banks, financial markets, they'll earn more money if they're going to hold the U.S. dollars if we start to see rates rise, right? So right now you're at what, 0.1 to 0 to a quarter percentage point. If we pop that up a little bit to, let's say, 50 basis points, I get 1/4% more for holding U.S. dollars. Now, for you and I, who've got maybe a couple $100,000, that's no big deal. But if I've got $100 million in the bank, 1/4% makes a huge difference. So, number one, banks and institutional holders will be looking more towards accumulating the dollar because the rate to hold it is higher. Number two method that they can do to help cure inflation, or at least help with inflation, is to remove money supply. They've already stated that. They're going to start next week, which is let's stop buying treasuries, right? Let's stop buying mortgage-backed securities. So the Fed said they're going to cut $10 billion a month of treasuries, which is the short end of the yield curve, and they said $5 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities, which has propped up the housing market. As that continues, if it's at that pace, we should see it done by right around June of next year, which means they're pulling money out of the money supply and retiring it. So now all of a sudden money supply will be dropping, which does what to the price of the dollar? It should push price up. And I think right now what we're witnessing is people anticipating those actions. That's the Fed stopping their purchases of mortgage-backed securities and treasuries, and also the potential for a raising rate environment, which would cause big money to buy US dollar, if that makes any sense. So this is a massive fundamental shift in the way our markets are operating. It doesn't mean that things are going to come crashing down right now, but at a certain point when those interest rates, A, get high enough, or we start to see that dollar spike, this could create problems for our markets. And we'll just wait and see down the road, when that starts to transpire. Hopefully, my hope is we have a blow-off event where we establish a high, we go back to retest that, and then I can start opening some short positions, but we're not there right now. Trillions, vote me in as Fed chief, and I will teach you about the number. Yeah, Google, a number with 100 zeros. That's it. Google. Options roll over time to short Tesla. Whoo-hoo. You're playing with fire, shorting Tesla. I mean, I'd like to, but Let me finish the market wrap up, and then I'll go into Tesla, and we'll check out some of those price charts as well. All right, so what else do we have for you? If you look at the dollar side of things, obviously we saw a continuation today with the euro slowing down a little bit. I still think we're going to drop a little bit further. 114 seems to be the logical stopping point here for the euro. The pound had a little bit of a bounce up today, which is fine, but still rather bearish on the euro because that dollar strength looks so good. Now on the week, right, we only had a couple of things which looked positive. Number one, for the week, let me go to a weekly here just so you guys can see. We do a little wrap up. Even though it's given back a tremendous amount of its gains, we were up right around $69,000 on Bitcoin. Right now you're at $64,175. So it's come back down quite a bit, but still up on the week. These are weekly candles right here. So, look pretty good on the week. You also had the big mover on the week, again, because of inflation, is gold. Gold looked great this week. Just a beautiful pop to the upside, a big weekly move, as you can see there. Loving it. I actually am very, very happy about the move. We're seeing 2.8% this week for gold. Bitcoin, just so you guys will know, for the week, you're looking at 4.55% gain. From there, it's all downhill. I mean, everything else just gave up the ghost at the end of the week here. You can see crude oil was looking pretty strong, but ended the week down 0.71%. That's on a 1.1% slide today. What else do we have that was bad? I guess I can look at the indexes, start things off. I'm going to start things off with the Dow, which I normally don't look at. This is a good example of a spinning top. I did get a question asking if this is a bearish harami. I'd have to say no, this is not a bearish harami. And for those that might not understand what a harami is where the candle today, or for this bar, we'll use a daily, or this is a weekly, so we'll use a weekly example. It is it fits completely inside the previous candle, including the tails. And as you notice this week on the YM, the tails are outside the range of last week. So technically it's not a bearish harami, but could we trade it the same way? Yeah, sure. We could put a line right across the lows of this week's trading activity, which is right around 35,819. If we get a close below that, all right, now you might see some retracement and shorting opportunities. So I would still trade it the same way as a bearish harami, but technically it's not. Let's see. So we'll go from there to the Russell, which had that beautiful breakout last week. This week, more hesitation, right? It looks just like the Dow, higher on the range because of the move that happened last week for the Russell, but really nothing doing there. Down on the week about 0.89%. The big one, which had a 1.1% move up today, was the NASDAQ. But you notice it's the first time in 5 weeks we're down. All right, we've been up 5 weeks in a row on the NASDAQ. Not only have we been up 5 weeks in a row, but it's been a significant gains. I mean, these are really strong moves. I'll go down to the lows we established here the week of October 4th and go to that peak. You're looking about a 14.6% move in 5 weeks. That's awesome, considering that the average is roughly 8% per year. We pulled that off in 5 weeks. Amazing. So, NASDAQ looking pretty weak. S&P as well. At least when I say looking pretty weak, I mean on the week, right? Still, chart looks epic. All these are in major uptrends. Just buy the pullbacks here. Same thing for the S&P. We kind of were unchanged on the week, even though you had a 0.82% gain on today's session. It was slightly down, just down 0.2% for the S&P on the week. So that's your kind of weekly roundup there. Now, Lewis says, hey, Merlin, what do you think about the New York City coin? Trash. I think it's another one of those scam coins. Not scam coins, I looked at the Miami coin when it first came out and what they were trying to do. It seemed like a joke to me. They weren't really officially supported by the cities. They're just using the names of the cities to try to get attention. So for me, it's not an authorized government product. It's just somebody created a coin, put the city's name on it, and says, oh, we're going to give a certain amount of our proceeds to these shelters and city projects. Okay, I mean, cool, I guess, but really not for me. Okay, let's go look at Tesla. So as you guys may have noticed, I don't remember what the final total was, but it's several $1 billion worth of stock were sold by Elon Musk of Tesla. Good for him. He deserved to do it. There's your week. It's been an ugly week, down 15.44%, where this poor guy's just trying to take a little bit of profit, and I can't say I'm mad at him. Ending the week down pretty aggressively. You had one little pop-up there as a lot of people trying to buy the dip. I would be careful of this one, and I know, Noam, you're probably joking about shorting Tesla. I mean, that's dangerous, man. Juggling chainsaws is what I like to call that. I personally would not touch it. If I did, I would be using options, and I'd be going deep out of the money. But Tesla is just, it's too strong, right? It is just way, 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 way too strong. Big Eb says, better off to short Rivian. Probably right, but the challenge there is you can't short Rivian. Right, you got this RIVN. Generally, when you have this quote-unquote IPO, which is what Rivian is theoretically has done, there's a window of time where you can't do anything. You can't short it. There's no shares available to short. Institutions won't loan it to you, so you're kind of stuck with Rivian. Although I love the product, except for those stupid headlights. I just cannot understand why they put those stupid headlights on there. And as Naum says, yeah, it depends on, it's a good point, Naum. It used to be standard that there was a 30-day window, but it depends on the structure of the deal. So normally it's 30, it could be 60 or 90 days lockup period with regards to not being able to short. That's generally the way it works. So you'd have to kind of dig in a little bit into Rivian, but right now you're not going to get anything to short on Rivian, and there's no options as well. So unfortunately, as much as I'd love to short this one because of that just colossal move up, I'm not going to do that one. I'll have to wait and see on that one. Now, there are still a lot of other EV companies, right? You have NIO reported earnings this week, I think. Was it this week? Yeah. So NIO reported earnings. NIO was a darling back in 2020, and we saw that monster move to the upside. Now, what's it doing? It's just floundering. It's getting weaker. It looks like it's getting weaker and weaker. You're still maintaining these lows right around $31, but it has not been able to make a new high since back in 2020, or sorry, early 2021. So, Big S says valuation Rivian is beyond stupid. Well, I think that the longer you do this, Big Eb, you're probably aware, and it just becomes abundantly clear that there's so many times at valuations, you just look at them and go, that makes no sense whatsoever. And you know what? It keeps going up. So even though it makes no sense and you're going, this, forget it, this can't happen, it is happening, right? You just got to accept it and move on. A lot of times when you start to get those opinions about something, that's when you get burned. Pepe says, hey Merlin, anything on TradeStation SPAC? I'm personally done with SPACs after what happened with the backed. Let's actually check out BKKT. Luckily, I made money on that one, but I'm done with it. I have no interest in SPACs anymore. I just think that it's too unpredictable. I got lucky. Honestly, I got lucky on this announcement here. Got out at 17. I made $2 on my shares, and unfortunately, it spiked all the way up to $51. And dab nabbit, why didn't I get out? But I'm not going to mess with any SPACs. And here's the issue I have: TradeStation used to be a public company, then they were bought by Monex and went private, and now they're trying to go back public again. I don't know. I personally don't think TradeStation is that great. I think TradeStation has issues with their platform, even though they got the new V10. I've noticed issues for many years with their customer support. I've also noticed issues with regards to opening accounts and being overly strict with regards to KYC and AML, not allowing people to open accounts for whatever reason. So I'm not really a big fan of them. I like this platform, right? I showed you this one for years. I've been using TradeStation, but now they dinged me and said that I'm a professional trader, which I refuse to acknowledge. I'm a professional trader, and they want to jack up my fees by 10x. So I have pretty much stopped using TradeStation altogether. I have 2 accounts left there where they're just kind of play money, and I'll leave those there until I decide to move them to somewhere else. All right. Big Eb says, I'll just stick with GM, an old fart stock, but one that I think will be big in the EV. They reinvented themselves, didn't they? They really have made the effort and said, we are going to be an EV company. So I think that that's a smart play, Big Eb. I'd rather have something that grows, certainly grows strong, But I don't want to have the stock that is so volatile that I'm up 50% one week and down 70% the next. That just, I don't know, that's just too crazy for me. Some of you might like that type of stuff. That's cool. I'm just too old for that crap now. Haven't been too many of those. All right, let's see. Fee people to death, Margaret says. Yep, fee people to death. I agree with you on TradeStation on that one. You know, there's other decent platforms out there. I mean, honestly, you look at something. Personally, I'm really excited for CliK because I've been on the development part of CliK. I see what they're building, and a lot of the functionality you can't really find other places. There's some really cool proprietary tools there, especially a lot of the integration with things like the Mastermind Grid and XLTs and things. So I'm really excited for CliK. It's just taking a long time. I told them early on, I said, you're trying to build a platform from scratch. This is going to take a considerable amount of time, right? There isn't like a off-the-shelf box that you can buy for trading platforms that allow you to do what CliK does. So, all right. So let me go back to some listener questions here as I start to. It's getting hot in here. My temperature's rising. All right, let's go to this one. This was from Jay. Jay says, was today's sell-off in crypto because the SEC rejected the Bitcoin ETF? Well, no, I don't think so. It may have a little bit to do with it, but remember, the SEC has been shrugging off Bitcoin ETFs for a while. Now, we do have 2 ETFs. Those are futures-based. What everybody really wants is, give me a physical-backed Bitcoin ETF, and the Van Eck one was shot down last night. No surprise. I don't think anybody is shocked that happened. What you'll see is they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and ultimately the SEC will approve one. Here's the big reason, and if you want to be involved in these discussions with your politicians, I would encourage you to do so. The problem I have with a Bitcoin futures ETF is it benefits the institutions. It benefits the market makers that are putting together that futures ETF. They're making the money off of you, not only on the, let's call it 1% management fee, but also there's price tracking discrepancy errors because of the amount of futures products they have to buy. So you start to get price tracking errors in the portfolio, and that money generally ends up in the pockets of the institution. So personally, I feel like having these Bitcoin ETFs actually is hurting the investor. If you put side by side a futures-based ETF for Bitcoin and a physical-backed Bitcoin ETF, the price tracking will be spot on with the physical Bitcoin. Right? You're not going to have those tracking errors. You just kind of buy more Bitcoin for it. With the futures, you have all kinds of other issues. So I think that they're doing a disservice to the investors. And remember, the SEC is there to protect the investor, to protect you and me. Now, of course, you look back over the past few years. If the SEC approved a Bitcoin ETF when they should have back in 2017, you'd be up over 1,000% at this point in time. Unfortunately, they're protecting you, so make sure it's okay. They're protecting you. You're safe. You're safe from this evil thing called cryptocurrency. Yeah, because it's just a typical day for crypto. Yeah, I agree. I'll look at some of those markets here. I don't think it was solely due to the Bitcoin refusal by the regulators. However, I think it might have a little piece to do with it. So let's take a look at what happened in the crypto space. Bitcoin down about 1.35%. Let me just sort these, because you can see there was quite a bit of blood on the streets. Oh, look at Shibu Inu down about 8% today. Yeah, bye-bye Shibu. Go back to zero where you belong. These are some of the bigger losers. Most of these you probably aren't too familiar with, like, Golem or things like Kusama or Dash. These aren't the top ones. But now you start to see things like Litecoin down 3.7% today. Polkadot was down 3.4%. I actually just bought some more Polkadot and participated in the parachain auction for Moonbeam as well as for Akala, which is a brand new thing that I've never seen, never participated in, and I'm hoping that pans out well for me in the long run. But I'll let you guys know how that one goes. Otherwise, what was positive out there? Algorand. And I do own some Algorand. One of the things that Algorand is getting a lot of attention for is it has almost a negative carbon footprint. It's using almost no electrical power to power the network. It's very, very little. Another one that I mentioned actually in my Crypto Investor Live program, and I'm a little disappointed that I didn't buy it at $1, is Render. Render just ripping to the upside, and that's pretty much the big gainers out there. Bitcoin, as you can see here, Still looking good. It's still higher highs. It's still higher lows. It's just taking a little bit of a breather. Anytime you break through an all-time high like that, there's generally going to be some pullback as people load up on short futures contracts. My guess is you'll see it drift down a little bit more, and then if we should bounce right around 61,000 would be my guess, if not 57, a little bit lower there. So that's your, I guess, crypto roundup. Lots of action, and of course we could dive deeper into all the politics of each one of these, but I do that now in the Crypto Investor Live program, which of course is usually 2 sessions per week for 2 hours apiece. Let's see, symbols not showing up on your charts. Yeah, I removed the watermarks, Margaret. I can put the watermarks back if you want. I just hate it because it messes. I just don't get to see the charts right. But here's the watermark. I can put that. Is that better for you guys? You guys like that better if I put the watermark on it? Oh, sorry. I guess I should probably show you the chart, huh? You like that better? I'm happy to do that if you guys want, since I pretty much use these charts for this show. All right, let's see. My home state, GM's home, gets 95% of electricity from coal and natural gas, and the sun doesn't shine for 200 days per year. No wind, hydraulic. Yeah. Well, you never know, Tom. Remember, they're not selling. They're not. I'm pretty sure that General Motors isn't saying, "Hey, let's go straight to Detroit." They're looking at global distribution, so the more you can get out there, the better. I mean, there's a lot of cold states that don't have a lot of sunshine that are big in the EV places. Did you guys prefer the watermark or no? I know that Margaret probably does, but yes or no to the watermark, so you guys can maybe see the symbols better when I change them. I think it probably is better. All right, so let me go to a couple more questions here. We're already at a 31-minute show. Mike. Yeah, Mike with his monthly request to see if we think cannabis is turning. MJ Tilray look like they are turning. ACB looks like it has higher highs. Let's check it out. So we'll start things off with MJ, which of course is the ETF, the main ETF that tracks the industry. And I agree with you, Mike. You do have this curl up, right? We finally, I guess you could ask, when did we finally change trajectory, right? So let me go to here. If you ask me right at that point, is this the buy point for MJ? I'd say no. It's still lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. And all of a sudden, if I just move forward here a couple clicks, we're still lower lows, lower highs. And all of a sudden, boom, we just now turned. Now, the question is this the turn? Remember, it's done this before. It did it back here on the 9th of June. I remember that one. We're like, oh, here it goes. We're making some highs. Boom, and it continued the downtrend. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet, albeit I think it's very positive to finally see 2 really extended big bullish green candles after this aggressive downtrend. Now, what I would also like to see is what's the volume look like, right? So notice the 2 big spikes of volume. This is heavily supporting a bullish move. When you have these big green candles, you have the significant volume spikes, which means that buyers dominated that day. And we know that buyers dominated because of the size of the green candles, but the volume really does accentuate that. And then you have the big sell-off. Yeah, volume was higher, but it wasn't a panic sell, which means that, in my opinion, people are holding. So I think now it's certainly looking better than it has for the past 8 months, 9 months. It's looking much better now. I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but could you start building a position in MJ? Yeah, absolutely. Do you end up putting your stop loss down below, let's say 1330? Yeah. To me, if you go to 1330, you're right at the origin of this gap. It's already come down. It's filled this big gap. I think we talked about this. There's a couple more big gaps down even further, but I do think that this is a pretty positive sign for MJ and cannabis. So let me look at Tilray. Same picture, although Tilray just looks awful chart-wise. You notice now it's actually based, it's formed a double bottom, and now it's starting to break through highs. It broke, retested, and now it's moving even higher. So Tilray, again, starting to look pretty good. New Fed legalization being talked about today. Good, about time. By the way, there's a very interesting show, and Alex made me think of this. Alex, thank you so much. There is a program called Bad Sport. And it's all about scandals that happen in sports. And there's one about a guy named Randy Lanier, who's a car racer. Check out that series. I think it's on Netflix. I've really enjoyed it, man. Not only that one, the Juventus football scandal. There's some horse one. I mean, it's very, very well done. If you're a sportsaholic like me and just pretty much love sports, check that one out. But the reason I brought that up is Randy Lanier was this massive runner of cannabis. He was just a huge, huge drug dealer, and he finally got caught. But it's pretty cool. Anyway, I don't know why I went down that tangent, but anytime you have a good show recommendation, I stumbled on it by accident. I love that, called Bad Sport. All right, so back to cannabis. So you asked about Tilray. Yep, I agree. Tilray moving up. You could look at ACB. ACB looking even better, right? Now, I believe Cronus, I think they were supposed to come out with earnings yesterday or maybe last week. I think I remember talking about this one. This does not look as good. Even though you have these big swings, this makes me a little nervous because I don't see a consistent follow through, a consistent moving up in this one. It just looks a little more choppy. But hey, Tilray, MJ looks great to me. I think you're probably in a decent spot if you wanted to start building a position for the long haul with those. All right, I think I had one more. This is probably the trickiest one, and maybe I'll do a show much more detailed. My throat's already fading on me today, guys, and I want to cough, but I'm going to try to hold off. That was poetic. I want to cough, but I'm trying to hold off. That's what you get for a white boy rapping. This question from Heather, I love it, and I think that this is something we all really should start looking at with regards to investment opportunities. Heather says, I'm hearing so much about the metaverse. Can you explain it as only you can? Well, thanks, Heather. I don't know if I'm going to do it justice. The metaverse, let's just say it's a digital world, right? It's going into a digital world where you can exist. You can buy real estate, you can buy clothing, you can buy furniture, you can buy foods and things, all in a digital world where it's really like Ready Player One. If you haven't seen that movie, that'll kind of set the foundation for you. I think Ready Player One really did a good job of kind of creating this utopia for people who have low self-esteem. So let's say you're really overweight and you got the worst acne that anybody on the planet, and you got a receding hairline like myself and you're really insecure about it. You go into the metaverse and you create your avatar, and I'll be big and buffed. My skin will be just absolutely perfect. I'll have the perfect little facial features and big little goatee. I'll have funky looking hats and everything like that. That's it. That's the metaverse where you can be anything that you want to be. It's cool. To me, it's a fun place to play. I've been playing a little bit in one called Decentraland, which uses the Mana token. So you can use the cryptocurrency Mana to buy things in Decentraland. And I will probably start to allocate some of my capital, not only to the VR side of, actually it's not VR, it's AI, and it's also AR, augmented reality. I'll put some capital into the companies themselves as well as some of the stocks, and I'm looking at potentially buying things in those metaverses. So, for example, Decentraland, you can go in there and you can work, you can buy things. Yep, sounds like Second Life. Yep, it is, but it's gotten bigger. And this is where a lot of people are so gung-ho on NFTs, because now I can take all of these digital properties that I can now have possession of, and I can put them in my own little metaverse, my own little world. And of course, very strategically, you saw Microsoft or Facebook change their name from Facebook to Meta, because this, to me, will be one of the bigger things to happen to our markets other than cryptocurrencies going forward. I think that you'll see a big shift in people's attention and focus. Part of me is actually really depressed about this. The reason why I don't want to see it is I think that social media has already created a generation of zombies. I remember when I was younger, and I feel like I'm just an old man now, but, I would go somewhere and you sit down and you talk to the person to your left or right. You meet people, you interact. And this is a skill set that we develop because we want to talk. Hey, how you doing? Where are you from? I love your shirt. What is that? Is that, you just engage. We've lost that. Now, you walk around and people don't even lift their head from their phones, right? They're just Instagram and Facebook and all these different social media sites. It's going to be much worse for me, in my opinion, with the metaverse. As Big Eb says, metaverse is a highly immersive virtual world. It's going to get so real that you won't want to leave. So not only are we losing the interactivity, the human nature, the communications that makes being human is so amazing, we'll lose that. But now people won't even really leave their houses. They don't need to. They're in a digital world. So thank you, Mimi. I am definitely feeling much better. Any infrastructure stocks? I don't have I might actually have my list here. Let me see if I have my infrastructure stocks. No, I don't have that one. I had a whole list of infrastructure, but I don't have that list here. I have to import that one, so I can't do that one now. Yeah, right? It's kind of sad, right, Jen? You know, I remember like dating when I was a teenager. Like you would go to the bar and be like, "Hey, can I buy you a drink? How are you doing?" And nowadays you can't even get their attention because they're just, "Oh, I have to update my profile picture, or I'm going to share this picture of a Apple Teeny that I got with the rest of the world so I look cool." I don't know. I'm a little bit frustrated with it, but it is what it is. And I think the metaverse will make that even worse. But there are some great opportunities from an investment perspective in that space. You know, things like Decentraland, things like Roblox has been doing very well. You know, Facebook, Microsoft, Google are all very aggressive in the metaverse kind of space. If you have a youngster who's looking into programming, that's one of the hottest places right now is the metaverse. Going and creating these alternate worlds. And for somebody like that that's really into it, check out the cryptocurrency Render, RNDR, is doing amazing things in that space with regards to virtual worlds and crafting those virtual worlds. So that's the metaverse in a nutshell for me, Heather. It's just a incredibly immersive, completely virtual, augmented reality kind of world. Like, you know, I could go into a space in Decentraland and everything's fine. I could buy a piece of real estate near the beach. There's a whole world, right? So there's a map. You can find real estate, and hopefully they'll build roads out to you at some point. But then I can also, if I want to, I can buy myself a dog to keep myself happy. And I click a button, and now there's a dog that's going to follow me around and do what I want. It's kind of weird, but you know, that's the future. And I know it sounds really odd, but you look at things like Johnny Mnemonic. You look at things like The Matrix. You look at movies like Ready Player One. They were almost telegraphing that way down the road, or many years back. It's almost like Star Trek with the communicator, right? If you go back into the 50s and 60s and watch Star Trek, beep, 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 you know, beam me up, Scotty. Well, that communicator just became the Motorola flip phone, and now all of a sudden we have technology that is pretty much what the communicator was in Star Trek. We don't have the teleporter yet, but hopefully we'll have that soon. Hopefully in my lifetime we have a teleporter, because I do not want to fly to Southeast Asia again for 21 hours. If you can do it in 2 seconds, I'm in. I'm traveling. All right, I think that was pretty much it with regards to questions for today. Here's what we've got cooking for Monday. As you can tell, my voice is absolutely starting to crack. You do have some big announcements. Empire State Manufacturing Index is the only big one for the U.S., but you do see trade balance for the euro. Canada has wholesale sales, manufacturing sales. You have, for Australia, monetary policy meeting minutes, and that's important. I mean, you've seen some of the moves in these crypto or fiat currencies lately. We'll see if those change pace. 11 p.m. on Monday, you see claimant count change, unemployment rate for the British pound, and also French final CPI coming out for the euro. So quite a bit of stuff going on with regards to the macro markets. Not so heavily in the United States, but we do have one announcement there with the Empire State Manufacturing Index. All right, let me see. Margaret, let me see if I can bring up the infrastructure stocks. And that's actually probably a pretty good area to look at right now, given the infrastructure bill, passing. And it was overly hyped up. You saw so many of those infrastructure stocks were parabolic, and I haven't looked at them recently, but my guess is they've come back down a little bit and allow maybe some better buying opportunities. So maybe we'll do that for our Monday show. We'll be looking at infrastructure stocks. I don't think people like people much these days. I love people. Have you introduced your dog to the metaverse yet? I have not introduced my dog to the metaverse. I should see if I could find some way that somebody could create a digital representation of my dog, because personally I think my dog is the greatest dog on the planet ever. All right, I do sound stronger. Thanks, Margaret. I do feel better, except for this little bit of a cough. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a fantastic week. Next Friday, I'm drinking whiskey. Today, it's iced tea, unsweetened iced tea. But again, thank you guys so much. For those who are new, you can email me, TraderMerlin@gmail.com. Again, those who sent in questions, we had questions from Heather and Mike and Jay and Howard. Thank you so much for those questions. It helped steer the show today. I'm excited for the markets. I really think we're going to get some more volatility here, which I love the volatility side of things. And of course, cryptocurrency regulation going forward could be very interesting for more upside moves in the crypto space. And we'll talk more about that. So thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Again, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, things you want me to cover on the show, send it on in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com or put them down in the video, down below the video on a YouTube feed. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you Monday.